Hello YouTube, welcome back to part 2 of the XV-01 build. Just a reminder that we've done the front and the rear gearboxes and we're now on to step, where is it? Step 11, parts bag C. And we're going to start now working on the main chassis. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this, and I'll show you the interesting bits. Before I get started, I meant to show you all that I've had a little bit of a tidy up. I know it doesn't look like much, but I've sorted out all of the rubbish that was underneath my countertop to give me more space. Believe it or not, not for storing RC cars yet, but for storing my daughter's many toys. But I've also managed to commandeer this shelving unit here, which is sort of just about fits on the RC cars, but also had some nice space at the bottom for my kit box, which is great. So we're starting to get there. This hobby room's coming along rather nicely. That's about as much as you're going to get. Right, let's get building. Okay, we've got the front suspension mounts in. That was step number 11. And now we're going to build up some steering linkages. My favourite. There we go, built up the steering links. They are cool, look at those. Really nice movement due to all the ball bearings in them. And lots of those groovy little dust covers. And now we're going to make up the steering rods, which is my least favourite part of any build. So I'm going to get on and build those, put them on there, and that'll be step 12 done. This tool makes those so much easier to put together. I would have really struggled without the turnbuckle tool there. I know there's other turnbuckle tools that you can use, but that made them so much easier. I would have really struggled with those if I hadn't have had an additional tool. So, bit of advice if you're building an XV-01, get yourself some sort of turnbuckle tool. Step number 13, attaching the steering linkage. I can tell you, having had my COVID booster jab today, screwing all of these screws in is starting to hurt my arm. I should have thought about my evening activities before I suggested that they jabbed me in my right arm rather than my left. But who am I to complain? On to step number 14. I very confidently talked about moving on to step 14, and then I actually looked at step 14 and realised that is an awful lot of parts going into step 14. This is going to take quite a bit of time. I won't bore you with every single step. I'll keep it moving and I'll show you the finished front arms when I've assembled them. So that was a good half an hour. A little bit of advice. Those little screws at the end, at the back, which stop the steering going past a certain point. So when you turn them, you see it's trying to hold it. When you turn them, it just stops. If you look at the back of there, see how it just, you probably can't see it, just stops there from hitting the back. Those screws, put those in before you assemble it all into the uprights, because if you don't do that, they're really hard to get in afterwards. Right, I'm going to attach the arms on now, and then we'll mount them up to the chassis. Right, the arms are on. That's step 14, so I've just got to attach them now with step 15 by getting those two small plastic bits and screwing them on. And there we go, front arms are on. The next thing we've got to do is to mount the gearbox. What surprised me when putting the gearbox on is how neatly that slots in to the front of the chassis. It just, everything's got, with this build, everything's got a little guide hole or a slot for things to fall into. It all goes together really nicely. I'll get it screwed up. Look at all those lovely screws on the bottom to attach everything together. So we've now got this gearbox mounted up. We've got the uprights in place there and there. So the next thing we've got to do is attach the upper arms and the bumper mount. And that is step 17. That is the last step that we've got before we move on to parts bag D. 2 more part bags to go, and then we should have a completed chassis. So let's crack on. There we go. We've finished parts bag C, where the front gearbox is mounted up and the steering linkages are all in and the front bumper mount is on. So we're now on to bag D, which I'm assuming is going to be doing the same on the back. We'll go ahead and get bag D out and we'll go from there. Right, we are back. Parts bag D is all laid out and we are ready to go with step 18, which is attaching the rear suspension mounts. So I'm going to go ahead, do this little bit, and I'll show you what it looks like. Here we go. Just put those little suspension mounts in there. So the next thing to do is attach the rear arms. So let's go ahead and get those on. Look at that, got some lovely front arms mounted up now. These are an absolute pig to put together. On the end of, see there's like this little metal rod that goes through the middle, and either end there's some really tiny plastic pieces that keep falling off as you're trying to screw the underside of that in place. But we got there. Right, on to step 20, building the rear axles. We are absolutely flying now. We've just built those two, and now we get to attach the rear gearbox and put on the drive belt. How cool's that? Right, let's get this done. That is so cool and so easy to put on as well. I was worried about that for some reason, and it just really clipped on easy. Obviously you did this side as per the instructions, did that side first, and then laid the whole unit down into the grooves that were already there on the chassis, and all I have to do is to screw it together. So I'll go ahead and do that, and we're moving on then to step 22. So I'm just looking at this bit here and trying to work out if this is set right. So that comes in there, and it looks like there's a bit of tension on that belt. So I'm assuming at the minute that that is set correctly as per the manual. But it has no notes about that other than not to twist the drive belt. So I'm going to consult the oracle of YouTube and make sure that I've got that set right. I mean, it's definitely taut, that's for certain. But I just wonder whether that needs adjusting up a little bit. But I'll take a look and I'll adjust it if it needs adjusting, and of course we'll try and let you know what I do. Right, step 22, brilliant, more turnbuckles. Here we go, guys. I've put in the drive shafts and mounted the front arms all up with the turnbuckles. I also got completely carried away and put the cover on the drive belt. Sorry I didn't show you what I did there. I just was enjoying myself. And that's the thing with these builds, is often it's all about the fun. It's all about getting involved, getting stuck into it, forgetting what you're doing, relaxing and enjoying a bit of mindfulness. Next thing we're doing is making up some dampers. 4 of these. I'll get cracking and show you what they look like. I've done step 24. I'm going to do step 25 and step 26 and show you the shocks mounted up, because everyone who's probably watching a build of an XV-01 at some point would have built up some CVAs. So I'm going to get ahead, mount them up and show you what the chassis looks like at the end of parts bag D. Right guys, we have reached the end of parts bag D. We've got our shocks mounted up, front and the rear, and we are ready to move on. Now I'm going to do the final parts bag E, in a separate part because, well, I just think this video's already got long enough. I'm really enjoying putting this together. It's quite a sleek chassis with everything all hidden up and behind dust covers and so on and so forth. Huge shout out to the RC Elf for making this content possible. I am absolutely loving it, and I can't wait to see how this handles out on the track. Thanks ever so much for watching, everybody. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, please subscribe, hit the bell, do all those usual wonderful things that YouTubers do. And I will speak to you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.